talk about that. And what else do I got? One more thing, but we'll see if we have time. So it'll just be Coffee with Pat.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody, to Coffee with Pat.
Now I wish I had some coffee.
You got 30 seconds to brew.
Only some time for some Nescafe crystals. Those are gross.
Hump Day!
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with the outstanding producer and engineer, Mr. Aaron Zommers, on the board. It is 6 past the hour of 12 noon on this Wednesday, January 15th, 2025. It is
Hump Day!
Yeah, you may have already heard that. It's because the camel got way too excited. It's
we
yeah.
started. It was a premature camelation, which I think there's medication to fix that. I'm
It
not
happens
sure.
to all of us someday.
Welcome into the show. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Madison. Let's check in with our friend, our colleague, the host of Up North News Radio on beautiful Lake Wissota, Mr. Pat Kreitlow, every morning from 6 until 8. How's the weather on Lake Wissota, Patrick?
Who's been here the entire time but knows when to keep his mouth shut and just let everything else play out. I'm fine. The sun is shining. It's a beautiful day. How else would you like to change the subject, sir?
I for those watching on the stream, by the way, our friend Trigby Olson gonna, I think, join us tomorrow. He's
Really?
traveling
Tomorrow
the country. Doing a lot of post-mortems on the
Is
election.
this like his New Year's resolution to not be on the radio with me? I'm 0 for 2025 at this point.
I think he's just nervous because now that he had a birthday, he's only a year apart from you, and he's really dreading the fact you're going to give that back to him in spades, which you should in all appropriateness. So.
Poor fellow's birthday snowflake. That's what it is.
Right? Exactly. For those watching on the stream on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, X, whatever we're on, I have my Wisconsin Badger hoodie on today, which Mom will be disappointed because she doesn't like it when I wear a hoodie. She thinks it should only be when you're jogging. She's not a fan of the hoodie.
Not wrong. Okay.
But I'm celebrating because I went to the game last night with my great friend Jeff Daniels. He took pity and gave me his extra ticket. And then we met up with our other friend Rob Wheat, the Richland Center Mafia, and we witnessed Greg Gard's 200th win as coach of the Wisconsin Badgers last night as they knocked off. It was a nail biter, which it should not have been, but they survived against the Ohio State University, the Kohl Center. Badgers now 24th in the country, Pat. Greg Gard getting it done.
That's outstanding. That's great. Good for him. Congratulations, Badgers. Starting 0-2 in the Big Ten. Now they're 4-2. Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the end of Pat Kreitlow's knowledge about Wisconsin Badger basketball. So.
Are you're not? Did just because of where you live up there, you're not a Badger fan?
Oh no, totally a Badger fan. Just not in a position to give you a good play-by-play of the game, especially when you were the one who was there. So answer me this. Let's get to what people really think about Todd Allbaugh at a Badger game.
Yeah.
What do you like to eat? What do you drink there? What do you get?
Thank you so very much for asking. I don't often get food and beverage there because it's a little pricey.
Why do you not want to support college athletics? I don't understand.
Last night.
That NIL money's got to come from someplace.
Well, you got that right.
Yeah.
I did get a hot chocolate because it was a little nippy walking from the top of State Street down to the Kohl Center. And I have to say, it was actually a well-done hot chocolate for a commercial venue like that.
Can I tell you, I have a story about Badger hot chocolate.
Yeah.
I've been to exactly one Badger football game, and it was on one of the coldest, windiest days possible back in 2017, I believe it was. And we're up in the upper deck, and we are just freezing. And around the start of the third quarter or so, we said we got to go get a hot chocolate. I know the lines are long, but let's go wait in line. As we're heading toward a concession stand, one of those mystery doors opens up and then a vendor comes out, where they kind of reload their trays and everything. This guy comes out of the door in the middle of the hallway or the corridor or the concourse and starts saying, hot chocolate, hot chocolate. I mean, a bunch of us almost tackled this poor fella. And the hot chocolate comes in these, it did then, this really nice insulated mug that we still use every day to this day for coffee. But that mug of hot chocolate, it's hyperbole to say it was a lifesaver, but it changed everything to have something nice and warm in your hands while you were trying to watch the Badger game. So yes, hot chocolate.
In the moment it was
hot chocolate at a Badger event on a cool day. I strong support. I'm right there with you. Good purchase, Mr. Allbaugh.
Thank
Now
you
you
so
just
very
get
much.
styrofoam cups.
That way it was. But,
Seriously, just styrofoam cups?
Well, at the Kohl Center last night it was, but it was a nice one. It had the motion W on it. Anyway.
Okay.
The Badgers are back in action. They're going to be going out west, at least for now. It's still on. Badgers play at USC in Los Angeles on Saturday at 1 o'clock local time, and then they play on Tuesday at UCLA. We'll see how that happens. Of course, the LA fires still continue to rage. High wind warnings, particularly for western Los Angeles today, a different area than what was affected earlier. You can go to civicmedia.us to find out legitimate places like the Red Cross and a World Kitchen to donate and do your part to support folks out in Los Angeles. One other top story, Pat, and our listeners across the network on ABC and CBS Radio News heard this at the top of the hour. But according to multiple sources at this hour, a deal has been reached in the negotiations between Israel and Hamas to release hostages, at least 33 of the 98 being held in Gaza, to establish a ceasefire, according to one U.S. official. As we say now, it's been confirmed by multiple sources. The national folks will take care of a lot of this. But to me, Pat, it's notable because Anthony Blinken, U.S. Secretary of State, has been working tirelessly right up until when the clock on this administration runs out. And unlike Jimmy Carter, who just passed away and we had the funeral, where hostages in that situation, American hostages, were released after he left office, we may see some real tangible results for the Biden administration here.
Well, let's make sure we understand history here. History has given Ronald Reagan a pass on this.
I'm saying
what many
people
believe
did all the work.
Yes, Carter's people did all the work. Okay, and that it was Reagan's people said, can you delay that? Okay, yeah, I missed. Yeah. But again, I'm seeing the same thing online. Let's make clear that this was something that was done because Anthony Blinken and the Biden administration worked tirelessly to get this done, and that if there is any delay whatsoever, and it happens next Monday onward, so that Trump thinks he can take the credit, he's seriously mistaken if he thinks there's not going to be tremendous pushback to that. So let the record show who actually got it done, if indeed it takes effect, and we all pray it does.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony on Facebook saying that guaranteed Trump takes the credit, and he probably will, regardless. He'll attempt to. But no, I'm with you, Pat. I'm saying that history has shown that it was the Carter administration that did all that work, and there may have been some back deals by the incoming Reagan administration to negotiate with the Iraqis to hold those hostages, or Iranians, pardon me, to hold those hostages until noon on Election Day. So, unlike the Carter folks who did the work that didn't get the credit, hopefully the Biden folks and Anthony Blinken do on this situation.
Exactly.
Yeah. Trump has been saying, or he did say in at least one press conference, he said that if they don't get that ceasefire resolved before he's in office, there'll be hell to pay or whatever. Right. And then he's asked what he meant by that, and he's like, you know what I mean. So he's going to say that because he said that, well, that's why it happened.
Sure thing, Yosemite Sam. Yeah, right.
All
whatever.
Right. Closer to home, Pat, article in yesterday's Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. There was indications that Tony Evers was going to hang it up after 2 terms, but he has hinted that he might want to be 3-term Tony. The only other, of course, Wisconsin governor who's been able to do that is former Republican Governor Tommy G. Thompson, who actually won 4 terms. And now Republicans are lining up to take on Tony Evers if he is, in fact, the Democratic nominee in 2026. U.S. Representative Tom Tiffany, of course, who represents your part of the state up there in northern Wisconsin. We also have a guy who says he's another Navy SEAL veteran who owns Pindell Global Precision Inc., seriously considering 2026 runs, along with Washington County Executive Josh Schoeman, who is being floated as a potential contender. Other Republicans, yes, Eric Hovney might want to come back to Wisconsin once again. Also, State Senator Patrick Testin and Racine businessman Will Martin. Even former Rep. Sean Duffy, who is looking at being the Secretary of Transportation, could come back home. Pat, first of all, you know the Democratic side as well as anyone. What's your gut say? Well, this article is saying that Democrats are saying that 60-40 Evers is going to take a third term.
I think it's all just one big parlor game at the moment, and one that, frankly, not to poo-poo it, but I mean, it's an inside baseball thing. Most people could not care less at this point. It's all speculative until announcements are made. Evers has no reason to make any announcement until as late as possible to avoid looking like a lame duck and to keep Republicans guessing. I thought it was funny that the Journal-Sentinel article mentions this one business guy. I'd never heard mention of him before. There's no mention of him anywhere else in the article, and you do a Google search on the guy, and there's nothing here. It's almost like, I have to tell you a TV story, where right out of the movie Anchorman and Ron Burgundy, we had a previous anchor, a producer who was dared to drop a name in the teleprompter and to see if this anchor would read it. And he did. He said, so he put his roommate's name in there. And he said, not only is it, Todd Allbaugh's birthday, it's Arbor Day here in Eau Claire, blah, 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 blah. And he just read it, and the producer wished his roommate a happy birthday that way. I'm looking at this story, and I'm thinking, did this just happen to this reporter? Did he get fed a name and he just dropped it in there, and somebody lost a bet?
It's Molly Beck and Lawrence Andrea, so I trust them. I don't know.
I do too. That's what I'm saying. Did they get punked by somebody?
Right.
And everything after this is what we see all the time. Let's use Tom Tiffany as an example. Have no idea where he's going to go on this. But what happens now that his name is in that article? You know what happens.
Oh,
He
sure.
can raise money.
Yeah,
He's going to raise
money.
money like crazy. You put your name out there for that, and then at some point you go, family considerations, or, my arm is broken, or, I really want to pass this bill in Washington, D.C. For a guy like Tiffany who would not stand a chance, the guy who wants to turn all of pristine northern Wisconsin into a sulfide mine and dig it all up, is going nowhere. He can't say anything without a subject, a verb, and illegal aliens. There's nothing else to him. And the folks around that support him love that, but that means nothing in Wisconsin. And Sean Duffy, I'll close by saying this. His confirmation hearing is today for Secretary of Transportation. There's a great column in the Wisconsin Examiner, wisconsinexaminer.com. I forget the fellow's name, but basically he's covered Sean Duffy for years and years and looks at his record and it's like, there is nothing that indicates Sean Duffy is capable of running a massive department with any transportation experience. So, yeah, sure, run for governor then. End of rant.
There's Pat Graylo's take on interesting on the Democratic side. Yeah, I mean, sure, it doesn't mean anything until Evers makes a decision. But I think it's pretty well known. Josh Call has been pining to run for governor from the Attorney General's office for
on
quite
a very
some time.
deep Democratic bench. Oh, so many Democrats will run if Evers doesn't. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it will be a free for all on the Democratic side. Speaking of the governor, going to come back. He made an announcement yesterday taking on gun violence. Was Pat Kreitlo's take? Yours as well. It's the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Conversation 92.7.
Andrew in Maine says, I thought the camel went early just to make sure Todd did not forget what day it is. That could be true.
Tony says we need as many Tonys in Wisconsin politics as possible.
Tony is very pro-Tony, said Tony.
Tony.
This
A
message
different
brought to you
Tony.
by Tony Pack.
Yeah, another Tony on Facebook bringing up other updates about the ceasefire.
So
Yeah,
He's
maybe
saying that
Tony.
it's still not sorted out, but also
Tony Blinken getting it done. So.
I see that, but it looks like there is another update from the AP since then.
It's still, I mean, you're right, Tony. I saw a couple of those as well, Tony Horning. But from what I'm seeing on everywhere from CNN to CBS to Axios, I'm seeing confirmation on both sides. But it's the Middle East, so nothing's really ever for sure until after it's done.
At the very least, the mediators are saying the deal is reached.
Visit izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
I'm Dan Schaefer. Let's recombobulate.
In the first week
And
of the
Tony
new session
Zimmerman
of the
on
Wisconsin
YouTube says,
State
"How do you really feel,
Legislature,
Pat?"
Republicans fast-tracked a measure that would put a question.
You know, when
on
you
the
see the
ballot
clock
in
running and you
upcoming
got to get all those
election
points
That's
in,
right.
would enshrine
your
He's
voice
a
comes
pro.
up a little
in the
bit.
state
Yeah,
He's a pro.
Constitution.
Gets it
Two
all in.
things on this.
Something like that.
First, it is telling that Republicans made this their very first order of business. Senate Democratic leader Dianne Hesselbein responded to this, saying it's not cost of living or health care or gun violence that Republicans wanted to focus on, but a constitutional amendment. Telling, isn't it? But that leads to the second piece. Republicans are clearly doing this for politically motivated reasons. By having this on the spring election ballot, they're betting it will make it more likely that people who showed up to vote for Donald
20
Trump
seconds.
in
Thank you.
November will be heading to the polls.
Shaking his frozen on-air booty every morning at 6 o'clock to get you up, get you going, and to keep himself warm as he ice skates across Lake Wissota. Pat Kreitlow on the Civic Media Radio Network every morning from 6 until 8, host of Up North News Radio. Always a pleasure, Patrick. 21 now past the hour of 12 noon.
What improv group did you do time with that you can just whip these things out? Ice skating across a frozen Lake Wissota, shaking his tail feathers. It's you have a gift, my friend. You
I
have
don't
a
know about that. Just this 17 years working at WRCO where you had to make stuff up because we didn't have computers or anything else. Back when I started in '87. We had a not the teletype had just been taken out, but sitting in the it used to be, for those that know, there used to be an actual like cabinet where the teletype machine sat. There was a window on one side, double doors on the other, and just before I started, they replaced it with a dot matrix printer.
I was just going to say the same thing, that at my first station in Rice Lake, they did the same thing. So instead of this very comforting in the background, you heard
Yep. Right.
Dot
really
matrix
took the
printers are
romance out of
so
it.
bad.
Right.
Okay,
And so what would happen is, and Pat knows, I mean, there'd be a big roll. So like all of the updates from the Associated Press and UP, whatever, and the weather and the sports. And so you'd come in the morning and there'd be, I'm not kidding, like 50 feet or more of dot
teletype
matrix.
paper, yeah.
Right. And you put it on the big long cabinet and you have a ruler and you tear your stories.
we found an improvement on the ruler, and I can't
Really?
believe
What'd you
more
do?
stations didn't have this. A cement trowel, a trowel for like,
Gosh, that's good.
Oh, because it has a nice sturdy handle on it.
Right.
Oh, it was a big difference maker. Boy, are we getting granular now.
Old people in broadcasting.
Old people,
101.
tell us about making barrels at 855-75-CIVIC. Call in now.
Oh, Lordy. Okay, so anyway, Pat, I want to get your take on this, and unfortunately we don't have too much time, but the quick version is Governor Evers yesterday unveiled a new violence prevention, and in the stories today, it's saying office in the wake of the school shooting here in Madison, appropriated wants $10 million to run it in a sweeping and also a sweeping package of gun violence and public safety measures. The office will work with local partners, including law enforcement agencies, nonprofits, school districts, and gun shop owners to reduce violence. And it should be, quote unquote, a shared priority that transcends politics, the governor said. Now, that's the summary from WisPolitics, which is quoting the Scott Bauer story in the Associated Press. A, I guess, what's your take on this? But B, yesterday when this was rolled out, it was being called an agency. Now it's being called an office.
Well,
I
again,
agree with some of the things that I agree with some of the bills that he's trying to put forth, and the Republicans gavelled in and gavelled out and wouldn't even debate. But I question the communication, the marketing here. It appears to some as yet another government bureaucracy that's really not going to address a problem.
unless it is an office that finally takes an amalgamation of things. And you know this full well, when people would call you at the senator's office and say, I cannot navigate this bureaucracy. And if there's an office that instead takes, a little bit of this about gun safety, a little bit of this from domestic violence, and a little bit of this from another group, and gives you that clearinghouse of information and makes it easier for law enforcement and for community leaders to connect and get resources, then that could be a good thing. Now, we don't know which way this would ultimately go. I'm just giving the case that there could be a reason why you'd want to do that. That's how the governor explained it. And I think what I want people to take away from this is the governor is at least trying to get at the root causes of violence, and not just criminal violence, but like trigger locks on guns for accidental, gun violence and things like that. He's trying to address root causes. We played a soundbite from Assembly Speaker Robin Vos this morning that said, Robin Vos saying, the only solution to crime prevention is more police. He could not be more wrong. That's not crime prevention. The police are called in to respond, to investigate. They do some public service work, but they're law enforcement. If you're going to address root causes, that's a totally different thing. But all Robin Vos knows is, to pump up the police, law and order, all that stuff, even as he and other legislative Republicans are the ones leading the charge to defund the police by forcing local governments into such tight budgets.
Part of the quote from Voss was, quote, it's not well thought out. It's a bunch of touchy-feely bureaucrats that are going to go around wasting time, wasting money, certainly not putting forth the effort where it's deserved. You know what the most effective violence prevention office is? The police, unquote.
Yeah, and he couldn't be more wrong.
I don't think he's entirely wrong. If people in the general populace, speaking of things that people don't get into, when they hear that, they're going to go, yeah, if I want to be protected, I'm going to put my trust in my friends and neighbors I sit in church with who are my local law enforcement officers. He's not entirely wrong, Pat.
But what will law enforcement tell you when they're being completely candid about this? They're saying, I don't want to be a social worker. They're saying, yes, I don't want to be engaged in public speaking. I want the professionals who do professional counseling to do that. So let's have something that makes it easier for those other entities who don't walk around with a gun and a badge to do the work and take that workload off of police so that they can do what they do best.
As a former chairman of a police and fire committee, I could not agree with you more, but that's my point, Pat. Why don't the people at Governor Evers' office, why are they surrounding themselves with kids from school shootings instead of calling Jim Palmer at the Wisconsin Police Association and getting a couple of actual law enforcement officers to stand next to him and say, from a law enforcement perspective, this is going to help us and make communities safer?
And as Evers said in his press release and news conference, he has tried many different things to try to get Republicans to work with him, come together and work on some of these problems. But take red flag laws. 90% approval in the state for the most basic gun safety thing out there, and this legislature has done nothing but roadblock it. So if he's trying something different, how many more times can you say, gosh, I hope Republicans will work with me on something? Well, when you get that middle finger enough, you say, you know what? Here's an idea to try. It may not pass. It may not last more than 2 years, but at least he's trying. Robin Vos is doing nothing to protect our kids from school shootings or anybody else from violence. He's doing nothing.
Yeah, I agree on that part of the Republicans aren't coming to the middle to help out.
No.
But again, I just don't understand why. I mean, you had Sean Barnes, the outgoing police chief of Madison, saying this is great. Why wasn't he there? Why weren't there members of the Wisconsin Police Association at that?
I'm not going to worry about who was at a press conference or not.
Set
up the office.
It's the optics.
Set up the office, and if it works, it works. People don't care about the press conference. Look at this thing in 2 years when he's going to ask the legislature to put state money into it. And if it works, then he was right. If it doesn't work, they won't fund it. Got to try something. Try something.
Fair enough. Pat Kreitlow, fantastic.
You're
to have
so
you along.
fun to fight with. Let's do that more.
All right, let's do that more.
All right.
Have a great day. Don't fall through the ice at Lake Wissota, my friend.
See you later.
See you later. Come on back. It's the Allbaugh Show on Civic Media. Thank you, Patrick.
For people listening to The Secret Show, watch as Pat says, it's about damn time that this is, it's finally time where we can have a good old-fashioned, you come at this from the right, I come at this from the left. We know each other now.
It's right. I don't know if I'm right. Or
there you were, yes.
Right.
It's just another government bureaucracy.
I mean, look, we didn't have tolerance for the people watching the stream. This is why I wanted to get into it, but time ran out. That when you brought up, I mean, you know this from your own staffers.
You keep
Most
out of
of
this, Tony.
Most of what we do as staffers is help people cut through bureaucracy. Other
Right.
than Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Transportation,
But it's
and Department
your
of Ag,
stance
Trade,
that every
Consumer
new thing
Protection.
is a bureaucracy? Is every new thing that's created
Not
big
everything,
government?
but lay it out of how it's actually going to help law enforcement. Have someone there, a law enforcement person, say, we need this because we're not getting the help we need, and this would actually help us.
I agree. You need to be Governor Evers' new press assistant.
I literally have offered. I mean, over what was it? It was over a year ago.
I know.
It was when you and I were down in
Yes.
Milwaukee a year
I
ago,
know.
and I said on the air, I will go and work for the governor and help them out with their communication.
Yeah.
You have said that, and you've also said, "All right, I'm not a political consultant, but here's some free advice."
No, yeah.
But nobody listens.
I give the Republicans
that's
free
fine.
advice all the time. You'd think they'd listen just once. I can't keep being right and ignored this long, Yes, I can. I'm going to go back to work. All right.
All right,
Thank you.
great to see you, my friend. Take
See
care.
you later.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So now folks know what we do when we're not on the air.
WFBF.com.
It's easy to join.
A voice for farmers, a vision for agriculture. Wisconsin Farm Bureau. Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Rural Mutual Insurance, the #1 farm insurer in Wisconsin, is here for you even when the weather isn't. With crop hail damage, protect your operation from hail, fire, lightning, and more. Visit ruralmutual.com/farm.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin.
And when you said this is what we do when we're off the air, Tony
Welcome
says,
back.
"Keep the secret show going." This is the clip.
Farm Report. Now let's take
What
a look
you
what those
don't
markets
see
are doing
and
midday
hear.
on a Wednesday.
That's why you have
Got
to
a mix
tune in
as
on
we
the
take a
stream.
Look at the markets with cash corn up 3 3/4, up 4.78 1/4, and new crop corn up 1/4 at 4.57. March soybeans are up 3/4 at 10.48 1/4, while November soybeans are down 3 at 10.46 1/2. March wheat is down 1 1/4 at 5.45. And July wheat is also seeing losses, down 1 3/4 at 5.66 3/4. Milk is trying to push up as February Class 3 milk contracts are up 1 at 19.86 a hundredweight, and March Class 3 contracts are also up 1 at 19.66 a hundredweight. For the Midwest Farm Report, I'm Ben Jarbo.
You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
Breezy today and becoming cloudy. As winds switch to out of the south, gusting up to 25 miles per hour, it'll shove our highs to near 20 degrees. And we've got light snow moving in this evening. Mainly after 5 o'clock, it'll wind down in the overnight hours. Accumulations look around a half an inch. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Right now, it's 16 degrees.
Matt and Air on air.
Robotaxis made by Zoox are slated to hit the streets of California later on this year. Rides will initially be free for people who agree to test it out. You go first.
Wait, have you ever wanted to drive in a 4-person casket with no driver?
My biggest sticking point about this is the name. Zoox is a cartoon character.
Yeah. Do you think when he's driving, he's going...
Awooga, awooga.
Matt and Air on air. Weekdays at 11 on 92.7 WMDX and the Civic Media app. The John and Gordy Show.
Costco is building apartments above its stores to address the affordable housing crisis. Starting earlier this year, walking downstairs and getting a $1.50 hot dog, Sam.
Man, that's just the dream.
Gives new meaning to the affordable walkability.
John, you're very excited about this.
This is my dream.
You must fight just to keep them alive. It's deep. I am a tiger. It's the thrill of the fight. Rising up to the challenge of our rival. And the last known survivor stalks his prey in the night. And he's watching us all with the eye of the tiger.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show, the Civic Media Radio Network. 34 now past the hour of 12 noon, Wednesday, January 15th. Many thanks to Pat Kreitlow for being on the show. You can hear him every morning on Civic Media, 6 until 8 on select stations and always on the Civic Media app. Great guy. Always and it's fun when we don't always agree on everything.
Yeah, I just have to play some Eye of the Tiger to hype us up for the cage match next week.
By the way, yesterday we were talking about 80s and 90s music. That was another great song from high school, Eye of the Tiger. We played that in a halftime show and in pep band all the time under the direction of our great band director, Lauren Jensen.
And pep bands still play it all the time.
It's a great tune. Great tune. Talking about, going to continue this a little bit because I think it's important to have a discussion. Governor Evers announcing yesterday yesterday they were calling it an agency. Today they're calling it an Office of Violence Prevention in the wake of the school shooting here in Madison. And they say that they were on this before the school shooting. I would think they probably are with the detail that they provided here. And let me say, as a former Republican who left the party in 2011, as a gun owner, still an occasional hunter, particularly pheasant, turkey, I support the gun measures the reasonable measures that Evers put forward last session. That, by the way, were never taken up by the Republican-controlled legislature. In 2019, Evers called a special session of the legislature to pass a universal gun background check bill, which I support, and a red flag proposal that would allow judges to take guns away from people determined to be a risk to themselves or others. I support that. Republicans immediately adjourned without debating the measure. It was the first of a dozen special sessions Evers called since 2019, none of which have been successful. If I were advising Governor Evers, which I am not, I would say, Governor, let's kick off this new session and let's do statewide listening sessions. Not the ones where you invite, the 25 Democratic supporters in Eau Claire. Let's go up, because, it turns out Jim Schmidt's a great guy, the chancellor up there, and let's hold a student community town hall in Eau Claire from 7 until 8:30 on a Thursday night or whatever. And anybody gets to come. And you're going to ask the people of Eau Claire whether they support a bill that would say a background check is required in Wisconsin. Whether they support a bill that says if you have someone who is involved in a domestic assault situation or dispute, and you can prove to a judge this person is a danger to someone else or themselves, that they should have their firearms taken away for a period of time, at least until they're deemed by a medical professional to no longer be a threat. Ask the people of Wisconsin directly if they support that. My guess is going to be yes. And I'll tell you, legislators will get real nervous when you go into Howard Markline's district in Dodgeville in southwest Wisconsin and you have 400 people show up. And then you go into Green Bay or Sturgeon Bay or Sheboygan and you do the same thing. And yes, you'll get some very ardent MAGA people that will come and swear at you for 5 minutes. Or you put a time limit on. That's what you do. Your staff times it, and I've run these things. Everybody gets 2 minutes. And if someone starts dropping F-bombs, you say your mic's going to be cut off. It has to be respectful. But my guess is the majority of Wisconsin agree with the governor on these reasonable things. And then that gives you the leverage to go to the legislature because essentially you're doing political jujitsu where you turn their own constituents on them. But instead of that, the governor holds a press conference in his very cozy governor's conference room, one of those beautiful rooms of the Capitol, by the way, and surrounds himself, according to the photos from the AP, of school kids and teachers. And that's great. That's great. But to make something politically viable, to actually get something done, you can't always just have your side, quote unquote, on board. You have to be the bigger person to reach across. And people say, why does Evers, the Democrat, always have to be the bigger person? It's just the way it is. Listen, people of this show know my feelings these days of former Governor Tommy Thompson. But one of the things he was really good at is reaching across the aisle and including Democrats in his cabinet and praising Democrats when he agreed with them. But now he wants to create this office of violence prevention, which is noble. And we're going to run through, this is according to the governor's office, we're going to run through some of these things. According to Evers, the office will, quote, work to connect the dots between state and local government agencies, including law enforcement agencies, to ensure a whole of government approach to prevent violence, including gun violence statewide. That's just bureaucratic talk. Tell people what this is really going to do. Say, after talking with a half a dozen law enforcement agencies in our biggest communities in Wisconsin, what they tell me is they're lacking X, and this office is going to fix that. Number 2, support and provide technical assistance to local violence prevention and intervention efforts. Are you going to provide computers? Is it Wi-Fi? Is it broadband? It doesn't say. Number 3, administer and award grants to school districts, firearm dealers, law enforcement agencies, nonprofits, and government agencies to support violence reduction and prevention initiatives. To support violence reduction and prevention initiatives. What does that mean? Next one, develop public education campaigns to promote safer communities. All right, I get that one. And finally, identify opportunities to improve statewide policies or laws. Well, here's an opportunity. So you're going to pay people to sit around to tell you what you already know, and then you're going to take it to the legislature in a special session. They're going to gavel in, gavel out, and nothing's going to get done. I'm all for doing something, but it has to be a thoughtful approach, and you have to include more than just your base in the approach. And the perception is you're creating a bureaucracy which is largely unpopular. People are okay with creating new government programs if you explain in real words what it actually does. And I don't understand the lack of good communication from the governor's office on this. I admire him, and I agree with the legislation he wants to pass, like have the legislature pass and him sign into law. I'm all for that. And I call out the Republicans for not having an honest debate on it because they're too afraid to take that vote because of what I said earlier. Because they know, as my dearly departed friend Morris Andrews, the head of the teachers union, once said, first thing I'd do is I'd take a poll. Republicans have the same poll. They know that Evers' legislation is popular. And they don't want to take that vote. So use that as the political wedge. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Karina, listening in Milwaukee, NWAUK. Karina, let's see.
Absolutely agree with you, Todd. And I think that it's a little bit, you can see it in the different states for all this legislation. Unfortunately, Democrats got so upset with Trump winning, with Republicans are winning, that they are kind of unoffensive. It feels like it. They are unoffensive. We're going to do it all by yourself. We don't need you. Blah, blah, blah. No, guys. This is the one country. We got to work together. And I completely agree about the police, because police is not a preventive unit. Police is a crime unit, right? They are for protect and serve, but they're not going to knock on every door and say, how do you feel today?
Right.
Would you like to shut a couple people over here? No. And the background check, absolutely. They do background check to go piss in the car. They're doing a background check, and they're not doing a background check when you're buying weapons, multiple weapons what can shut several like automatic weapons. No. You got to be reasonable. You cannot do that. What I would do, and I think we're talking about very similar things. I would go back to the police and maybe go into retirement forces. I'm sure there is a lot of retirement policemen who will be really interesting going back to work and actually be a part of the force and have the experience with what they see every day on the streets and how they can put the scenario. Don't just put it like you know that movie with the Tom Cruise, what was it, Minority Report?
Oh, yeah.
That's how it sounds. This sounds like Minority Report right now.
I appreciate the call, Karina. Thank you so much. I mean, I agree. Again, and maybe Governor Evers and his staff have done this, but it would be nice if they tell us, to what Karina said. Have they sat down with current or former law enforcement and asked them, what do you need to make your job better? How can we actually support you? One caller texted in, TJ, law enforcement does at times act as a deterrent, right? Just show of force. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Gene was on the phone. Now Gene is off the phone.
Well, Gene, if you call back, we will take your call.
Always a pleasure to talk. We haven't talked to Gene in a couple of days. Give us a call, 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842, and tell us what you think. Because as I'm going down, as I read you that list of things from the governor's office that they say that this office would do, for the life of me, I'm not really seeing much other than the one thing saying that they'd offer more things in schools to talk about mental health or gun violence, which I agree that should happen. I'm trying to say, okay, if you had this in place, whatever this is, one of the many items on the list, if that were in place, would this have prevented the tragedy that happened at Abundant Life Christian School here in Madison, a case where a 15-year-old girl allegedly, apparently, and by the way, that report is still not fully done. We don't have the final results. But it appears allegedly that a 15-year-old girl obtained handguns from her dad, who had obtained them legally and had been trained in how to shoot at a range. As Pat Kreitler said earlier, if we had a gun lockup law, you have to have a gun lock in your guns, sure. But if the parent isn't going to adhere to that, I'm much more interested in support what Governor Evers said in the bills that he wants the legislature to take up. Red flag laws. I support that 100%. Waiting periods, background checks. I support that 100%. And I would take that message directly to the people of Wisconsin. 855-752-4842. Jean, there she is, up in beautiful Eau Claire, WCFW. Jean, I thought we'd lost you. Thanks for calling back.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate that. I was just enjoying listening to back and forth with that lovely lady on the phone and yourself. And, I feel bad for Governor Evers, I have to tell you. I feel bad for anybody that's in leadership with what we're dealing with today. Started in our state and other states with Scotty Walker, and you know what happened there. Mm-hmm. And, he's tried his best, so he's trying different things. I wouldn't want to be in his position, I'll tell you that for sure, because the people that are running our state don't give two hoots about the people. And I do find it impressive that he utilized the kids, because the kids are the ones that are suffering. The kids are suffering. And the thing that really bothers me more than anything, because when I worked with kids and they had like a death at school.
10 seconds.
Man, sure.
Hey, hang on, Gene. Hang on, Gene. We'll bring you back after the break. I don't want to cut you off. Back with more Gene O'Clair. Your phone calls, 855-752-4842. It's the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Great conversation. 92.7 WMDX.
Oh my gosh, is that your new puppy?
Yes, she's so cute, but I have to work long hours now.
We need to get her out for an afternoon walk.
We love Hotel K pet sitting for our dog walks. They're local, dependable, and totally spoil our dogs. And scheduling is so easy on their app. Plus, they send daily messages with pictures. It really gives us peace of mind while we're working all day. For house sitting, cat sitting, and dog walks, it's Hotel K pet sitting. Reserve now at freebellyrubs.com. freebellyrubs.com.
Attention. If you suffer from consistent pain in your joints caused by arthritis, overuse, or injury, you may be a candidate for a revolutionary therapy that could revitalize damaged tissue. This approach can provide long-lasting relief from pain in your knees, shoulders, hips, and other joints with no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. To find out if you're a viable candidate, you may request a free consultation from QC Kinetics by calling 608-384-0897. Instead of masking the symptoms, it goes to the root of the problem to resolve it at its source. Already used by thousands of satisfied patients nationwide, this joint pain therapy is available right now to the public, but only for qualified candidates. Again, to find out if you're a viable candidate for this therapy, you may request a free consultation by calling QC Kinetics at 608-384-0897. That's 608-384-0897.
Are you ever questioning when life will slow down? Are you ever thinking of just relaxing and enjoying the
30
simple
seconds.
things? All
Thank
of this
you.
is possible.
Pursuing truth wherever it may lead and having fun doing it. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show, the Civic Media Radio Network. Glad to have you along. 9 before the hour of 1 o'clock on Wednesday, January 15th. Fasten your seatbelts. I am still looking forward to today's What's Worse. I've been talking to Zommers about this for 24 hours.
It's true. He has.
Today's What's Worse. It's very controversial, and it's fantastic. You're not gonna want to miss it. You're gonna want to weigh in and call in hour number 2. It has to do with cilantro. You think Republicans and Democrats, Trump, Biden, you think that's controversial? We're going to talk about cilantro in hour number 2. But right now, something much more serious. I want to bring Gene, our longtime listener from Eau Claire, WCFW, the Tap up there, great station in the Northwest. Gene, thanks for sticking around through the break. We're just up against the clock, and, the computer has no compassion. It'll cut me off regardless. I can't say, hang on, computer. So I appreciate you hanging on, Joe. Talking about this proposal by Governor Evers yesterday to create what he's calling now a new Office of Violence Prevention. You were saying you worked in public education for a long time, and you wanted to talk about it from the kids' perspective. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I worked in mental health field too, okay? And I worked in a place where I did a lot of suicide intervention, AODA, abuse, different things like that. And also, I worked as a school psychologist and testing and that type of thing, and did a lot of different things here, and also in private practice, and also in a hospital setting or in a clinic setting. So these kids, every day, and I'm talking about all kids and younger people. I feel so bad for these kids, and I've been retired for a long time here, and I'm going to be 70 Friday. And
Friday,
so
happy birthday, Gene.
Yeah, I'm getting up there. I'm over the hill and going down.
Nah, you're only getting better. Go ahead.
You sweetheart. Thank you. First of all, I want to say I appreciate everything that you're bringing up, because the public needs to know these things. Parents need to know these things. There has been so many distractions and outrageous calls, and we need to really get together as a society and pay attention to these things. Now, they put those red flag laws out for sure, because my father-in-law, his neighbor was shot and killed. He was a psychiatrist, before those laws were put into practice. There are so many people's lives, and the children's lives, and people who just have overwhelmed, and it's just amazing. Why are hunters? Why are people? And I have guns. I've hunted, but the thing of it is we all need to come together to protect our society. We need to quit this hate stuff, and our people like Voss, who's ridiculous and shouldn't even be in office, we need to start coming together to hold these people accountable and kick them out of office to help the people in our state. We got to quit playing games and blaming people, because frankly, when you don't meet and do your jobs and you collect money and then you get big money paybacks for doing things for big money, and you're not even caring for the people that are paying their taxes, going to work every day, caring for their children. Come on, folks. Please wake up.
I want to bring up something. I thought you just 1 second before you go, because you brought up something really, really important as a former educator who worked in healthcare. And you got to the heart of what I would like to see from the governor and Republicans. But why not go around and say, hey, we talked to 5, 10, whatever people in public schools. And one of the things that, because a lot of people don't know, guidance counselors, like a lot of people in education, are overworked. They're trying to help kids decide what they want to do post high school. They're also trying to be mental health people. They have a number of jobs. We don't have enough guidance counselors, quote unquote. Why don't we take part of that $4 million and say we're going to allocate this for our public schools in all districts, red and blue, and we're going to dedicate a public health worker in addition to the guidance counselor, in addition to a school resource officer, i.e. a police officer. We're going to address some of these mental health issues in addition to calling for things like the red flag law and the waiting periods. To me, that's a more a holistic approach where you're saying we're going to actually provide support to both law enforcement and mental health. That seems like an actual solution to me.
Outstanding, yes. I will call Governor Evers' office after we get done and make that suggestion.
You're amazing, Gene. Happy birthday.
Great work.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
855-752-4842. Kurt in Madison says Governor Evers needs to start traveling and conduct town hall meetings. Sitting on the Hill has little impact with the residents of Wisconsin. It's so fundamental. Sheesh. I totally agree with that. Also, Liz in Sun Prairie saying, reason guns, parents need to be held responsible if they don't lock up their guns. If I need to keep medicine in a cabinet, then, let's see here. Sorry about that. Away from my young children, and would be charged with neglect or involuntary manslaughter if my kids were to overdose. Certainly a gun owner needs to keep those weapons out of the hands of a juvenile. Very quickly, let's go to Rob in Port Edwards. Rob, I'm up against the clock. If you can make it quick, go ahead.
Yeah. I think inviting all of these different folks are probably what Evers wants to do. I think what he's doing right now is throwing the gauntlet down and generating discussion, just as is happening on your radio station here. And come on, to the table. You don't like what I'm proposing? You think it's all nebulous and light and fluffy? Bring your ideas, bring your discussions. Let's generate the forum.
Yeah.
And let's start. But let's start with information. And that's what he's going to do, is put out the information. This is what's really going on. Going back to teachers and all that, the Republicans have never taken any teachers seriously, so I can't see them being the ones to initiate educators, inviting them to the table.
I agree with you, Rob. That's a great point, by the way. If Republicans and Rob Voss don't like what Evers is putting on the table, then you bring ideas and let's have a real discussion. Agree with that. Nice discussion. Well done, everybody. Come on back. A What's Worse? You're not going to want to miss. At least I don't want to. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show for a Wednesday on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Conversation 92.7 WMDX. Pete Schwaba.
On the next Nightlight, I welcome author Jody Hinman into the studio. Then director Anders Lindwall joins the show to discuss his film Green and Gold. That's how you light it up.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba. Weeknights from 6 till 8. Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
Mike Siegel. Hey, Mike.
When I look back on all those years on the road and going on 2-lane highways in northern Wisconsin, in the dead of winter, it could have been like 10 below outside. One deer jumps out in front of me. I was like, I'm done here.
You're in a ditch and they're not going to find you for 3 days. Dead deer carcass over there and a dead comedian carcass.
Holding his date book.
Somebody might
frozen
want to
hand.
call and cancel him at Zany's next week in Chicago.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba. Weeknights from 6 till 8 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app. Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app. This is 92.7 WMDX Columbus, Madison's home for real news and great conversation. A Civic Media station.
This is a special report from ABC News. I'm Michelle Franzen. After months of negotiations, Israel and Hamas announced they have reached a tentative agreement that would end more than a year-long war in Gaza and free hostages kidnapped in the October 7th attacks. ABC's Tom Sufi Burridge is in Hostages Square in Tel Aviv, where Israelis are filling the streets, mostly to celebrate.
There's thought to be just short of 100 hostages still in Gaza. Israeli officials have suggested to us that potentially about a third of them are believed to be dead. So it could mean that many more hostages won't be released in this initial 6-week phase of the deal.
The phased deal would also flood Gaza with humanitarian aid and require the withdrawal of Israeli forces. The Biden administration, along with members of the Trump transition team, worked together in the latest talks. President Biden is expected to deliver remarks with just days left before he leaves office. President-elect Trump on social media claiming credit for the deal reached between Israel and Hamas. This is ABC News.
This is your local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. It's one of the biggest issues facing our area. Dane County is now getting $7 million in federal funding for more affordable housing. County staff will be able to use that money to build 47 affordable homes. Part of the goal will be to work with developers of color. They'll also take additional looks at zoning and building codes. And about a month after the Abundant Life school shooting here in Madison, Governor Tony Evers says he's working to reform gun laws in Wisconsin. And if the past is any indication, he'll likely face resistance from Republicans. The governor says he'll be looking at things like red flag laws, expanding background checks, and gun storage laws. In 2019, Evers called lawmakers to a special session to address gun violence. Republican leaders famously called the legislature into session and immediately adjourned, gaveling in and gaveling out, something they've done multiple times since. Now, since Evers took office, state Democrats have proposed at least 30 bills they say would make Wisconsin safer, but none of them have passed because Republicans haven't supported them and they have control of the legislature. Evers signed an executive order creating the Office of Violence Prevention, surrounded by advocates and leaders. Here's the big question: can he get Republicans on board?
Just weeks after a school shooting took the lives of a student and an educator who never returned home, common sense gun safety reform and reducing crime and gun violence must finally be a shared priority that transcends politics and partisanship.
See, that's a
Reducing
great
crime
example right
and
there.
violence should be an issue
Can
that
the audience hear
receives
what we're listening to or
earnest
not? So
bipartisan
that's a great
support
example right there.
this session.
To create
I've
this
been in
new
meetings with
Office of
Governor
Violence
Evers when he was a
Prevention,
state school
Evers used
superintendent.
$10 million for
And he's actually kind of
leftover federal
animated, or
funding
at
to
least
get it
used to be
started.
able to be
But going
animated
forward, it'll need
behind
money
closed doors. He
allocated in the
can
state
actually
budget to
say
keep it
things
going,
himself.
and that
But
is up
instead,
to the
his staff gives him a bland
Media News,
milquetoast
I'm Savannah
statement to
Tomei
read.
Olson.
Bland and milquetoast. Well, I really want it to be done. I really. Why does he look right at the camera and say, "This has got to stop"? We can't be having kids and teachers being shot and not going home, and have my colleagues across the aisle playing politics. I'm talking directly to the Wisconsinites. Well, you got to.
How you
gotta
can't
be
connect
real.
with people
Right.
by just being like, well, I
Yeah.
have my statement and I am reading it.
I mean, he could have been reading about cilantro.
Like people like Tony Evers when he's riled up and holy
Right.
mackerel
Right.
and all that. And
I don't give a damn.
Jazzed
You
up.
know, yeah.
Jazzed as hell.
I'm mad as hell. Jazzed as hell.
When he says, when he gets animated, people like that.
In the political business, we say he's very handled. Very handled.
Overhandled.
He's
perhaps.
overhandled.
Just based off of what they have available, and
maybe a veteran or something in there. I don't know. We'll see.
That's former Packer Devontae
Well,
Adams.
Sherry and
with Sports
Horicon,
on
good
Mike
afternoon.
Clemens.
We appreciate you being along.
Local radio for you and your community. It's Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
Breezy today and becoming cloudy as winds switched out of the south, gusting up to 25 miles per hour. It'll shove our highs to near 20 degrees. And we've got light snow moving in this evening. Mainly after 5 o'clock, it'll wind down in the overnight hours. Accumulations look around a half an inch. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Right now, it's 17.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
The Maggie Dawn Show.
Here's what the WSJ had said after J6. This week has probably finished Donald Trump as a serious political figure. Boy, that hasn't aged well, has it?
No, not at all. In the Wall Street Journal. So after what they just said 4 years ago, Maggie, they couldn't bring it upon themselves to say that guy who did that shouldn't be anywhere
30
near
seconds.
the White House again. Nope, couldn't do it.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with our producer and engineer, the fantastic Mr. Aaron Zommers on the board. It is 6 past the hour of 1 o'clock. Welcome into hour number 2 of the big program on this Wednesday, January 15th, 2025. It is a great day to be a Wisconsinite, and it is Hump Day. There we go. Right on time this hour.
Not early this time.
He was quick to get the hump on hour number 1. It was kind of funny. We started the entire show with that.
We did.
I like that, actually. Great to have everybody along. Happy Wednesday to you. Hump Day. Yes, it's chilly. Was walking a little bit downtown. Went to the Badger game for those watching on the stream. I still have my, I did take it off to sleep. I wore a different basketball sweater yesterday. I have my Wisconsin hoodie on today, celebrating Greg Gard's 200th career win as the head coach of the Wisconsin Badgers. It was a great game. It was a game that should not have come down to the last 2 seconds, but it did. Wisconsin beat the Ohio State University, and Greg Gard got his 200th victory. So congratulations to him. Coming up this hour, want to spend a little time on a couple of subjects. Number one, illegal immigration, undocumented workers, and breaking it. Great folks at Wisconsin Watch have another great piece on putting this down there with the facts and how it affects Wisconsinites. What do you think the biggest industry is in Wisconsin that employs undocumented folks? How many people in the hospitality industry? How many people in agriculture? And as Wisconsinites, are you ready to pay a lot more for goods and services if Donald Trump gets his quote-unquote mass deportations? Talk about that a little bit this hour. Also check in on the Senate hearings out in Washington, D.C. Yesterday was Pete Hegseth. This is fantastic from our crack staff. We played some of the cuts yesterday. Pete Hegseth, Fox News host, wants to be Secretary of Defense, testifying. He said yesterday that he would ensure that women were, quote, treated fairly and with dignity, honor, and respect, unquote, just like everyone in uniform. Senator Jean Shaheen, Democrat of New Hampshire, said, quote, "I appreciate your 11th hour conversion," unquote. I thought that was the line of the day.
Absolutely.
I
We only have a
appreciate-
ton of lines of
yeah.
him on podcasts saying that this may not be a direct quote, but it's pretty close. Women weaken our military.
Yes, yeah. He's come right out and said he doesn't believe that women should be in combat. Senator Kristen Gillibrand, Democrat of New York, cited a past quote from Hegseth about women in combat roles. Here it is, Zommers, quote, "We don't want women in military, especially in combat," unquote. Gillibrand stated, quote, "What a terrible statement. So please do not deny that you've made those statements. You have," unquote. So today we're going to give you some cuts here later on this hour. Pam Bondi, who Trump has nominated to be the next attorney general. It sounds like a name out of a movie, like a Bondi girl.
Not even just specifically Bond,
Pam
but it
Bondi.
does. It's a catchy name,
Yeah.
Pam Bondi.
She's a Bondi girl. Anyway, she wants to be attorney general, and we have some cuts interesting very much from her. So we'll play those for you and talk about that a little bit later this hour as well. But first of all, at 10 minutes past the hour of 1 o'clock, time once again for What's Worse. Let's go.
This or that, this or that. And of course, the choice is yours. You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get with this, or you can
Time
get with
once
that.
again to
You can get with
play
this,
What's
or you can
Worse.
get with
No
that.
prize money involved, no cash available on the table, but your chance to have your voice heard across Wisconsin's largest privately owned radio network. In every major media market in the state, 11 stations statewide. Nobody covers Wisconsin like Civic Media. That'd be a catchy slogan, wouldn't it? Nobody covers Wisconsin like Civic Media.
We'll just make it nobody covers Wisconsin like Todd Allbaugh.
Well, let's not go too far. This is fantastic, all right? We've had a lot of great What's Worses, and our co-executive producer, CP, comes up with these, our great writer. This may be his best one ever. What's worse, cilantro or the Kardashians? 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. What's worse, cilantro or the Kardashians? And if you're watching on the stream, you see this great graphic. Now, why do I get such a kick out of this? A, because cilantro, the herb, I think it's classified as an herb. Is it?
I think so.
It's very controversial. People are either all in on cilantro or they're all out. There's not a lot of middle ground people on cilantro. I happen to love cilantro. And I think it's because my early travels from El Salvador back in the early 90s, lots of cilantro used in El Salvador. I love it. I know other people, oh, it's soapy. It tastes like soap. What? So what's worse, cilantro or the Kardashians? Now, for those that don't know who I can't believe there might be some people that the Kardashians, it's a family, but it was also was an American reality TV series focusing on the personal lives of the Kardashian Jenner family. The program is a retooled continuation of their previous reality show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, which concluded in 2021 after a 20-season run on E! Did you know that, Summers? It was on for 20 years.
I didn't know the number, but I knew it was too many.
The series focuses on sisters Kourtney, Kim, and Khloe Kardashian, and their half-sisters Kendall and Kylie Jenner, alongside their mother, Kris Jenner. What's worse, cilantro or the Kardashians? 855-752-4842. Let's go to Cindy in Appleton. Cindy, what's worse?
Well, this is a no-brainer. The Kardashians. I mean, even if cilantro tasted like dog doo-doo, it would still be by far better. And I do love cilantro, by the way.
Thank you. You are a person after my own heart. You have nailed it. We could end the segment right now. No, not really. But I agree 100%, Cindy. Well said. Tony, watching on YouTube, says Kardashians, and it's not even close. Agree, Tony. Ben, watching on YouTube, the Kardashians are worse. I love cilantro and wouldn't notice if the Kardashians disappeared. Totally agree. Our ongoing contributor and friend Jeff Perry, watching on Facebook, says, I assume you don't mean the Kardashians from Star Trek. Was it a race or a species? Yeah, the Kardashians. Completely different. No, you're right, Jeff. But thank you for asking, because you never know. I'm a Trek fan, of course. No, we're talking about the Kardashians. The TV series. The high, and here's, we'll get a couple more calls. I'll give you my take on this. I have I don't know, maybe a somewhat controversial take on the Kardashians. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. What's worse, cilantro or the Kardashians? We go to the phone lines. Nancy, listening on WXCO, Bull Falls Radio in Owasso. Nancy, what's worse, cilantro or the Kardashians?
Definitely the Kardashians. I would gladly eat soap over having to watch them. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you for listening and participating. We appreciate that. Very good. Jack in Merrimack off the text line says, what's worse, cilantro or the Kardashians? Well, some people actually like cilantro. I agree. I am one of them, Jack. I am with you. Also, a new caller, is it Kurt Madison at AUK? No, one caller says the Kardashians, says the Kardashians is worse. Cilantro at least has value. Wow. Harsh. Kurt on MDX in Madison says, I would eat cilantro until I threw up before I would ever watch the Kardashians. Just saying. Len in Madison, the Kardashians are worse. They are more of a distraction to what's important in life. I agree with that. Tyler, listening in Columbia County on MDX, says cilantro drama in my mouth last bites. Cilantro drama in my mouth is just for a bite, but Kardashian drama lasts years, so the Kardashians are worse. Mary in Mount Horeb, since I've never watched the Kardashians, I'm going to say cilantro. It's more like dirty socks than soap, even though I've never eaten dirty socks. Fair enough, Mary. That's an honest answer. Carla, listening up, wow, this is great. Listening up a beautiful Eagle River. I haven't been to Eagle River in years. I need to get back there. It's a beautiful, beautiful part of the state. On XCO, saying, hate cilantro. Oh, there's a cilantro here. Carla, thanks for listening. Hope you guys get some more snow up there for snowmobile season in beautiful Eagle River. Kimber, listening in Muscadet, back at the old home station at WRCO. I love cilantro and grow it everywhere during the summer. Kardashians, not so much. I consider it a noxious weed if I saw a Kardashian. Asking the question, what's worse, cilantro or the Kardashians? 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. You can also text us, as all these great folks are, on the Civic Media app. You can download it for free at your Apple or Android device. Takes less than a minute. It's free. What Gail King, not my high school English teacher, but CBS host Gail King, calls a deal. Liz, listening on Sun Prairie on WMDX, says one is a biological problem if cilantro tastes like soap. The other is a social cultural problem. People are consuming that garbage. Personally, she says, I love cilantro. What else we got? You must be trying too hard, Todd. Sherry in Horicon says, right now Jane is winning. What?
Winning what?
I'm not sure. Carla in Eagle River. Oh, sends her, thank you. The love goes. Eagle River is great. If you've never been there, go up to Eagle River. It's an absolutely beautiful part of the state. And on the phone lines, we'll take Rob when we come back. I think that's better. So Rob, hang on. You can tell us what you think after this. We'll continue on the other side. But part of my take here is, would the Kardashians be the Kardashians if not for Bruce and now Caitlyn Jenner? I think that she did all the work on that. We'll come back and discuss that after this on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Madison's real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX.
A lot of people have strong opinions about the Kardashians.
Yes, I love it.
Indoor golf with space for events, craft cocktails, and non-alcoholic drinks too. A hidden gem on Madison's East Side. Blind Shot Social Club, open to everyone. BlindShotSocialClub.com.
Still putting off that deep clean? Let HS Pristine Clean take it off your to-do list. With over 20 years of meticulous cleaning experience, they make your home sparkle without the hassle. Call 920-932-0000 today. Why wait?
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government buy-in for the people. Our recent reporting explored.
I was wondering if I had ever been to Eagle River. I've been to Eagle Cave, but I looked it up and they are not the same.
Not the same thing at all.
What are the rules as to how
Oh my
that money is
gosh.
spent?
Ben says the Kardashians are OJ's real crime.
The Federal Election Commission allows private donations to support
That's a
inaugural
hot
activities. This year, that's a parade, a rally, 2 luncheons, a tea, 3 dinners, 3 inaugural balls, and fireworks at Trump's Sterling Golf Club. The FEC requires reporting of donations over $200, but sets no limits or
The
dictates
song I'm
how
playing
it's
going in
used.
is the theme.
Let's say that
is the theme
Trump
song for the
inauguration
Kardashians.
Okay,
Keeping
right.
up with the
event
Kardashians.
cost an
I don't know if I'd
astronomical
recognize it, so good thing you told me.
$1 each,
I wouldn't have
a
either.
$24 million. That leaves $146
Are we
million
brainwashed
left.
to hate
When
the
inauguration
Kardashians,
is
having
over,
never seen the
we
show?
Maybe.
know
No,
how the
I have
leftover money
seen it.
will be
I have
used.
seen the show.
We won't.
I've watched
Campaign source
maybe.
told the New York Times some would be used for Trump's presidential library. There
I've
are
seen a
no
little,
rules
and I was like,
dictating
no.
how that money is used.
3 or
The
4
Inaugural
episodes.
Fund
I'm like, what?
Integrity
This
Act
is just
expected to be
ridiculous.
Got about 25.
All right, thank you. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show, the Civic Media Radio Network. 21 now past the hour of 1 o'clock on Wednesday, January 15th. That is the theme, apparently, although I did not recognize it. From where, Zombers?
Keeping up with the Kardashians.
Keeping up with the Kardashians. I mean, for a while, it was the biggest program around. Everybody, I mean, on Entertainment Tonight and on TMZ and all the, evening entertainment shows, that's all they talked about.
It was a cover of every magazine in the checkout aisle at grocery stores.
And what I said before the break is, I mean, what the original show, which I cannot believe it's been over 20 years since this started, that Kris Kardashian married Bruce Jenner, the Olympic athlete. And kind of the serious part of this show, and really what launched it, in my opinion, is when Bruce Jenner decided to come out as a trans person and went through the transition and changed her name to geez, help me out. Caitlin, thank you. Had a brain slip. And ESPN did a whole series. It wasn't a series, it was a special on Caitlyn Jenner. And it was very well done. And it really helped me understand what folks go through. And instead of, getting a divorce or whatnot, Kris and then Caitlyn kind of stayed together. And then and so my opinion is it was really Bruce, then Caitlyn Jenner that brought the real focus to this. Now, I think that the Kardashian women or their staff are really great at marketing. They sold a lot of perfume and clothes and bags and everything else. But in terms of like a reality series, so what's worse, cilantro or the Kardashians? 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Rob, listening in Port Edwards. Rob, what's worse, cilantro or the Kardashians?
So I get a second bite at the apple here.
Yes, you do.
The Kardashians, only because it's kind of indicative of the envisionment of folks to be in a different place, have wealth, have notoriety, have the glitz, the glamour. And that's unfortunate because they kind of miss what they really have, which is probably cool families and significant others and all those kinds of things that are right in their own backyard or in their own dining table or living room. Going back to the cilantro thing, it is truly a genetic thing. And so if you have this particular genetic anomaly, you either love cilantro and can tolerate it well, or it tastes like soap, to use that analogy. It truly does. And so I'm going to do a shameless plug for a non-governmental, nonprofit organization. And Mr. Zomers, please Google this for you folks, called All of Us. All of Us is a genetics program worldwide, and everybody contributes to the genetic pool so we can do medical research, and you find out cool little tidbits like genetic predisposition for breast cancer, for liking cilantro. You'd be amazed. Allofus.com, and it's an amazing genetics program. But yeah, the Kardashians kind of takes all of this reality show and voyeurism and all of that right over the hill, and God bless them if they're making a buck at it. But I mean, just look in your own backyard. You probably have cool people there.
Now, Rob, you've given me a reason for concern here, because I love cilantro, and my mom basically, she doesn't hate it, but she'll say, "Well, I like a little bit," and she'll put like 2 little leaves of cilantro. So what does this say? Is there a chance I could be adopted since Mom doesn't like it and I do?
Well, on that note, I just found my birth mother, who is 88.
Really?
Okay. I'm crowding 70. I'll be 70 in September. I had a wonderful family growing up, but they were my quote adoptive parents. And I found my birth mother, who lives in Wisconsin. The lady is amazing. She could go toe to toe with any political out there. She's truly a progressive and an environmentalist. Still drives the tractor, still works the garden and grows the corn and does all this stuff at 88, going on 89 here in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And she's a rock star in my book. Yes.
What a great story.
If you folks want to find out about your background, irrespective of, who gave birth to you, All of Us is a fabulous program. And not only will you find out a lot about yourself, but you're going to help the whole world, the whole medical community, to develop medicines and protocols focused around the genetic makeup of people.
Thanks, Rob.
Have
I
a great
appreciate.
day,
Hey,
folks.
a great call. See, you never know where this segment's gonna lead to. What a great story.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
fantastic.
And All of Us is an initiative from the National Institutes of Health. So the website is not allofus.com. It's allofus.nih.gov, which NIH, National Institutes of Health. So
thank you very much.
allofus.nih.gov. And I'll put
Very
that
good.
in the show notes.
Thank you so very much. What's worse, cilantro or the Kardashians? 855-752-4842. Ben on YouTube says the Kardashians are OJ's real crime. Wow, that's a hot take. L.A. Tom, again, sending our love and thoughts and prayers, L.A., out there to all the great folks in Los Angeles. L.A. Tom says the Kardashians are worse, and he adds Kris Jenner is a monster. Whoa. Do you have inside information there, Tom? Maybe you live in L.A. I mean, it's a smaller town than people realize.
Is it?
Yes, because you run into people, quote unquote, in the business.
I guess so.
Right?
So.
Anne, listening in Chippewa Falls on on WAUK, but she's in beautiful Chippewa Falls, says the Kardashians are worse for sure. Jamie, listening in, says, I love cilantro. I blame the world's Kardashian problem on Ryan Seacrest, who produced the E! Show and now is on the Hulu show, and now he's taken over Wheel of Fortune. Just give me Vanna and cilantro. He can run away with Kim and Chris. Well, Jamie, a little harsh on Ryan Seacrest. I mean,
I can understand that.
Yeah, all right. Greg, listening in beautiful Genesee Depot, says Kardashians are worse, love cilantro, and grow it in my garden. I tried to grow cilantro last summer on a pot in my balcony, and it got woody very quickly. The cilantro, not me. Anyway, 28 past the hour. Larry in Sun Prairie. Larry, thanks for calling in. What's worse, cilantro or the Kardashians?
The Kardashians, for a couple reasons. That reminds me of Robert Kardashian helped OJ, kind of cover up some things. And
there you go.
Cilantro, I think they use in Mexico.
Yes, it's a big,
which is actually pretty good stuff.
It is.
But little sidebar here,
You know what OJ said to Judge Ito on the way out of the courtroom?
Quickly.
He said, "Hey, Judge, can I have my gloves back?"
Thanks, Larry and Supreme. That's all we got from the Kardashians and cilantro. Come on back. It's the Allbaugh Show. News and weather up next.
Real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX.
See, that was a great segment. That was a lot of fun.
It was.
It's all on your local Civic
And for those of
Media
you on
radio
the stream,
station or the
I'm one of those
Civic
people
Media app.
where for whom cilantro tastes like soap.
Really?
But I'm
But you
still
still
gonna
think
say
the
the
Kardashians
Kardashians
are
are
worse.
worse because
I'm Savannah Tomei Olsen.
I can
In the
eat some
spring
soap,
election, voters
like
will
I'll
decide
live,
whether to add
but
Wisconsin's voter ID law to the state constitution.
but the Kardashians
Republican
and
lawmakers passed a
social
measure to
media
add the
and
voter ID law
reality
to the ballot.
TV
That leaves it up to
ification of everything.
Wisconsinites. Republicans
No thanks.
claim it
Yeah.
reduces voter fraud. Representative Dave Maxey of New Berlin says it, quote, helps maintain public confidence in our electoral outcomes, reinforcing the principle of one vote,
All right,
one
let's,
person, end quote. Experts and advocates
let's
say
go to
voter
the,
ID law
the national
disproportionately
stuff here.
affects
We'll go
people
to
of color and
the
those with
Pam
economic
Bondi
disadvantages.
hearings.
Jay Heck, executive director of Common Cause
What the heck?
Wisconsin.
All it does is it reduces the opportunity for certain segments of the population to be able to vote. It doesn't do anything about preventing fraud, and it's just a voter suppression method.
The conservative group Heritage Foundation has only found 68 cases of voter fraud over the last 40 years in Wisconsin. Now let's talk about constitutional amendments. State Republicans have been using this strategy more often lately. When something is just a law, the Wisconsin Supreme Court has the power to overturn it. But if it's part of the state constitution, repealing an amendment is a whole lot harder. Meanwhile, Governor Tony Evers is asking the legislature to allow Wisconsinites to add measures to the ballot as well. He says voters should be allowed to choose their own priorities. Instead of just what the legislature can put on the ballot. Meanwhile, the state Supreme Court has heard arguments on a case about cleaning up chemical spills in Wisconsin. It's a complicated case, but basically Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce, the biggest business lobbying organization in the state, is suing the Department of Natural Resources. And the outcome could impact whether the DNR is able to hold people, organizations, and businesses accountable for pollution they cause. The state Supreme Court is expected to issue an opinion in the next few months. I'm Savannah Tomei Olsen. You're listening to 92.7 WMDX News.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. 7-time Super Bowl champ and one-time husband Tom Brady has come under fire all year long for his on-air gaffes while providing color commentary during NFL games. During last week's game between the Packers and Eagles, Brady accidentally referred to the Eagles as the Phillies, then later in the broadcast referred to Packers running back Josh Jacobs as Brandon Jacobs. This comes on the heels of Brady forgetting the name of one of the teams that beat the Packers during a recent telecast. In addition to Brady misspeaking, when his broadcast partner talks to him, he often nods his head so much a viewer could get vertigo. Yeah, he's not that great, but people on social media are losing their minds over his missteps. Word to the wise, if it's brilliant elocution you're looking for, don't try to find it on an NFL pregame broadcast from the guy who took shots to the head well into his middle age. For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
Breezy today and becoming cloudy. As winds switch to out of the south, gusting up to 25 miles per hour, it'll shove our highs to near 20 degrees. And we've got light snow moving in this evening. Mainly after 5 o'clock, it'll wind down in the overnight hours. Accumulations look around a half an inch. I'm meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Currently, it's 19.
The Dom Salvia Show.
Brad Schimmel, a J6 sympathizer, and he wants to be your next Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice. When he was Attorney General of Wisconsin, he spent thousands of dollars on memorial coins.
I would have been fired
that stood
if I'd
for
done that.
kicking ass every day. Hey, if you got to get a coin that says it, you're probably not
With
doing
your
it.
face on it.
The Dom Salvia Show. Weekdays from 4 till 6 on the Civic Media Radio Network and on the Civic Media app.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots.
Woot woot!
And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart.
This guy in
Heart
State
and
Street was
brain.
trying to have a fight with a car.
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
He was, the car had the green light, and the guy goes out, he's going to get hit. And so the car slams on his brakes, and then the guy starts yelling at the car. It was quite the something.
Oh, I bet. All right, 20 seconds.
Madame, what's your name? Bondi. Pam Bondi. Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 34 now past the hour, 1 o'clock on Wednesday, January 15th. Well done, Summers. I don't know why. I mean, she's the current, I believe, Attorney General of Florida. And
Yeah.
Trump has nominated her now after, Matt Gaetz. It turned out that wasn't the great nomination, as it turns out. And so now we got Bondi. And I like the name Pam Bondi. I don't like her as a nominee, but she's a Bondi girl. Well done, Summers. So, want to spend a couple of minutes here on what's happening out east in D.C. These Trump nomination hearings continue, confirmation hearings, pardon me, in the U.S. Senate. Up today, Pam Bondi and also another Floridian, Marco Rubio, as Trump has called him, Little Marco, United States Senator from Florida, for Secretary of State. Now, I might not agree with Marco Rubio, but in my opinion, he at least has the bona fides, as they say. You can't say Marco Rubio is not qualified to be Secretary of State. He's been a United States Senator. He's had experience. I think that he has the wherewithal. He might not do the job the way I want it, but I mean, it's not an unqualified nominee.
I am pretty confident he will do the job, unlike Pete Hegseth.
Right. A completely unqualified nominee. Pam Bondi, she has to be an attorney because she's an Attorney General of Florida. But, well, I'll let you decide for yourself. Going to play you a little audio of the Pam Bondi hearings this morning in the United States Senate for U.S. Attorney General. And Senator Rick Blumenthal, a Democrat, asking some good questions today. Things such as, would you be, an Attorney General is supposed to protect the law, the Constitution, first and foremost. You take an oath to protect the Constitution, all enemies, foreign and domestic. Blumenthal gets to it. Here's the cut from the hearing this morning.
We have some history here with your predecessors, Barr, Sessions, and others, who perhaps sincerely, when they sat where you are now, said that they would say no, but they were working with a president that expected them to be his Roy Cohn, his personal attorney. Do you really think that you can avoid the disgrace that they encountered or the repercussions from the White House if you say no to the president? And so my question to you is, can you say no to the president of the United States when he asks you to do something unethical or illegal?
Senator, first, I need to clarify something that you said, that I have to sit up here and say these things. No, I don't. I sit up here and speak the truth. I'm not going to sit up here and say anything that I need to say to get confirmed by this body. I don't have to say anything. I will answer the questions to the best of my ability and honestly.
Let me ask you.
And it goes on from there. But the point,
she didn't answer.
Right, and it went on, and she never did. And it's a very simple, whether you're offended by the question or not. First of all, I'm not sure up until the Trump era that question ever would have been asked by any United States senator. But if you're asked under oath, would you be able to say no to the president of the United States if he asked you to break the law? It's an easy answer. Yes, I would say no. because I take the oath of allegiance to the Constitution and, as L.A. Tom points out on YouTube, to the American people. It's an easy question and an easy answer. And the fact that she would not give an answer, as we keep saying, our friend and now the late, great Senator Tim Cullen taught us long ago, anytime a politician gives you an answer other than yes, it's a no. And anytime they give an answer other than no, it's a yes. So clearly from Pam Bondi, she's not willing to say under oath that she would say no to Trump if he asked her to break the law. And that's one of the concerning things. And this is why, as we move into Trump 2.0, people should not be surprised and up in arms if the second iteration of Trump is more egregious and worse than the first. Because in the first iteration, the first term, he had people around him like Reince Priebus from Wisconsin and General James Kelly, decorated war hero, who would say, no, Mr. President, you can't shoot people in the knees. Protesters. That is unconstitutional. And it would appear from Pam Bondi's own words that she's not willing to do that. Go to the phone lines in a second, but I want to get to the second cut. Again, a pretty easy question from Senator Rick Blumenthal on election integrity.
Or this one is from Senator Mazie Hirono from Hawaii.
Oh, thank you very much for the correction. Very good. All right, here we go.
I want to ask you a factual question. Who won the 2020 presidential election?
Joe Biden is the President of the United States.
Ms. Bondi, you know that there is a difference between acknowledging it and, I can say that Donald Trump won the 2024 election. I may not like it, but I can say it. You cannot say who won the 2020 presidential election. Okay. It's disturbing that you can't give voice to that fact.
And she didn't. Again, it's a very easy question. Who won the 2020 election? Donald Trump or Joe Biden? Jesus. What did they put
It's
in?
such an easy question.
What did they put in? What did they put in? Republicans will cut that and play that all over the place. Somebody will put in who put something in my coffee. Maybe it was Gary in Sussex. Let's go to the phone lines. 855-752-4842. Gary, did you put a roofie in my coffee? How are you?
All right, good. Now, ask me who won the election.
Gary, who won the 2020 presidential election?
I would say, as a good MAGA, Joe Biden is our president. That's what I'm going to say. And that's
so the same thing as Pam Bondi. You can't bring yourself to say that Biden won.
You know what, Todd? I really don't know the facts. Did he really win?
Yes,
he did. Assume it's
been proven.
Okay.
I don't want to relitigate. I don't want to relitigate it, all that. But the quick version is even federal judges appointed by Trump, 30 or 40 some odd cases, it went through time and again. There has been no evidence whatsoever that there was any sort of election fraud that would have any way changed the vote, and that Joe Biden clearly won legitimately the 2020 election. That has been proven time and again.
I'm fine with that. Okay, and then the question was asked, if Donald Trump asked you to do something illegal, would you do it? Well, that's, in my opinion, Todd, that's the stupidest question I've ever heard.
Why?
Of course. I mean, I wouldn't even answer it because it's so dumb. Of course you're not going to do it. If the President of the United States asked me to do something illegal, I'd tell him, you can't do that. But that question was so dumb, I can see why she didn't answer it, because that's almost insulting as far as I'm concerned. And then as far as Pete Hegseth, that guy is qualified. We need younger blood in there. We get rid of some of these old generals. Do you think that's what he's going to do?
Do you think that women? Do you think that women should be in combat?
If they want to be, sure, absolutely.
Well, there you go. You and I agree. Why can't the person that is going to be Secretary of Defense say that as simply and as succinctly as you did?
I think that what he means is, if you're qualified to carry the gear and to protect your buddies, your
He said,
companion next to you.
this is what he said. I'm not, so I didn't mean to interrupt you, Gary. I just want to get it on the record. This is what he has said. He's written a book, quote, "We don't want women in the military, especially in combat," unquote.
He has also said we don't want them. He qualified it saying, if they don't meet the standards, we don't want them. And, they're changing the standards to let them meet it. And those are both false. Women in combat roles have met the standards, and the standards have not changed.
I
The
guess,
thing is,
go ahead, Gary. Go ahead.
both you guys. The thing is this: women, as far as I'm concerned, if you're tough enough and you want to be a fireman and you can carry somebody up and down a ladder, and you're tough, and if you want to do that, it's great. Being in combat, I can't imagine any woman that really wants to be in combat. I don't want to be in combat, but if my country was attacked, I'm 73 years old. I could get in there and do some stuff. But the fact is,
Gary,
do I believe it? Go ahead.
I mean, I just have to stop you for a second. We have literally had women serving in the Wisconsin Air and Army National Guard who have been in combat and have served alongside their male counterparts admirably, and they get accolades. I mean, most I never served, but most people that have served or are currently serving will say, I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care who you love. I don't care what gender you are. As long as you got my 6 when we're in combat, that's all I care about. And women have done that admirably and have proven themselves.
I know they have. And if I saw some woman walking around in their uniform, I always thank them for their service and stuff like that. And there's a lot of women that want to serve, whether it's in combat or just serving whatever you're going to do. Like in World War II, that a lot of women served in the building the airplanes and working in the offices and stuff like that.
I get it, but we're also far removed from 1945. I mean, we've come a long way, at least in some regards. But I got other people, Gary. I always appreciate the call. I got to get to other phone lines. Thank you so much. 855-752-4842. Let's go quickly to Mark in Prairie du Sac. Mark, what say you?
Well, first off, that unless you can just admit that Joe Biden won the election in 2020, it just is denying reality. I mean, pure and simple. You just can't. It's claiming Gary does not need to bend his knee to Donald Trump because Donald Trump doesn't give a rip about Gary in the first place. That it is just, you have to admit that. And for Pam Bondi not to just come out and say that because she's an election denier and feeding into. That's part of what fed into the insurrection itself. I mean, let's remember that the insurrection was, the end game for the Wisconsin sweep and the election denial before the election even happened. I mean, I've had a gutful of the election denialism. Trump is going to be our president again. He won the election, and we have to suck that up, and things are going to suck for the country, and that we just have to accept that and resist where appropriate.
But don't you agree, Mark? I'm glad that folks in these hearings are getting these people on the record, so when their actions line up with what they said, nobody should be surprised. So appreciate the call, Mark. 855-752-4842. Let's go to Beverly out in beautiful Richland Center, listening on WRCE. Bev, what say you?
Morning, Todd. I was able to listen to some of the hearing this morning in Pam Bondi, and I'm not excited about any of Trump's nominations, and I'm not sure that I trust Pam Bondi and her answers. But she was able to give some simple yes and no answers that I found rather surprising. In particular, when she was answering Sheldon Whitehouse's questions. She deflected somewhat, but she eventually gave straightforward answers. So that to me was encouraging. I think we need to be careful about getting too excited and getting too angry and aggravated over those things before something really happens. So I'm just saying she impressed me in some respect. I hope she's telling the truth. Because if she was telling the truth, I think it's a possibility that things could be not as bad as we suspect that they might be.
Well, that's great perspective, Bev. I appreciate you calling in. As I said, I saw some of these cuts from the hearing. I did not have the entire hearing on like you did. So So that's great perspective. And I've heard that from other folks that, well, don't pay attention to what people say, pay attention to what people do. Okay, fair enough. Actions speak louder than words. We'll see where this all goes after next Monday. Stay tuned. Kurt, you're up next. Don't go anywhere. It's the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Real news and great conversation. 92.7 WMDX.
I'm Dan Schaefer. Let's recombobulate. In the first week of the new session of the Wisconsin State Legislature, Republicans fast-tracked a measure that would put a question on the ballot in the upcoming spring election that would enshrine voter ID in the state constitution. Two things on this. First, it is telling that Republicans made this their very first order of business. Senate Democratic leader Dianne Hesselbein responded to this saying it's not cost of living or health care or gun violence that Republicans wanted to focus on, but a constitutional amendment. Telling, isn't it? But that leads to the second piece. Republicans are clearly doing this for politically motivated reasons. By having this on the spring election ballot, they're betting it will make it more likely that people who showed up to vote for Donald Trump in November will be heading to the polls to help elect right-wing candidate Brad Schimmel to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. That election is on April 1st, so buckle up.
Find all of Dan's work at the Recombobulation area and on our website at civicmedia.us. The John and Gordy Show.
Costco is building apartments above its stores to address the
I'm taking
affordable
this one off
housing
today. I've heard it
crisis.
so many
Starting
times.
earlier this year, walking downstairs and getting a $1.50 hot dog, Sam,
Man, that's just the dream.
gives new meaning to the affordable walkability.
John, you're very excited about this.
This is my dream come true.
Weekday mornings 6 till 8 on 92.7 WMDX and the Civic Media app. The Maggie Dawn Show.
Pete Hegseth confirmation hearing.
I
never disparage women serving in the military.
Except for, the podcast interview in like late November of 2024 when he said women in combat weaken the military. Except for that, Pete, did you get body snatched? Are you not the same guy that sat down in the brosphere?
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. It is now 9 before the hour of 2 o'clock. At the top of the hour, ABC and CBS News, depending upon which of our great stations you are listening to across Wisconsin. Little sports update from Mike Clemens and that big Wisconsin men's basketball win last night. Greg Gard gets his 200th win since being named or becoming the head coach at Wisconsin. Also following a little the quarterback coach, not Mike Clemens, but Clements, retired yesterday. So long storied career with the Packers. Mike Clemens will have details on that. And it'll be another edition of the Maggie Dawn Show for a midday week. Maggie Dawn every afternoon between 2 and 4, followed by Dom Salvia, 4 until 6. At 6 o'clock, Pete Schwaba and Nightlight. And then it is Rick Smith Across America and Robert Pilot with Native Roots Radio. Tune into all that great programming for the rest of the day on Civic Media. Right now, talking about some of these Senate confirmation hearings for Donald Trump's nominees. This one for U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi from Florida, who is the current Attorney General of the state of Florida. 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Kurt, listening on WMDX in Madison. Kurt, thanks for holding. What say you?
Let me help you out, Gary. This is the way hearings work. It's pretty simple. Questions are asked, and it's becoming of the person who's applying for a position in office to answer the question. It's kind of like a mini test, and it's not only just a mini test. The purpose of having them answer yes or no or anything else beyond that is putting them on the record. That's this whole exercise. Mm-hmm. And the reason we put them on the record is the minute they stray and they do something other than the way they answered it, like the judges, Supreme Court judges saying, oh, no, we won't get rid of Roe versus Wade, then they lie. Mm. And that changes things. So it's not about their ego or whether the question is beneath them. They're there to answer the questions, period, whether they like it or not. And if they can't handle that, they shouldn't even be sitting in the hearing to begin with.
Thanks, Kurt. Appreciate the call. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. A couple of quick things to end the show on. First of all, continue to think about our friends, our family, our listeners out in Southern California. According to CNN, the strongest Santa Ana winds will finally, are expected to ease later today for most of Southern California. The relief, though, will not last long. The wind direction will finally change on Friday and usher in more moist air that will raise the relative humidity level in the region along with the weaker winds, which will tamp down the fire threat. But the pattern flip won't last forever. These Santa Ana winds could develop again next Tuesday or Wednesday. So certainly think of all those people. I want to play this quick cut from Governor Gavin Newsom. He did not, here's a great, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. If you want to see how a real politician answers a tough question when somebody goes after you with crap, like the incoming president's going after Gavin Newsom, calling him Gavin Newscum, here is what Gavin Newsom responded to yesterday.
This is serious. And, I get it. They want to take us. I get it. I'm not naive. I get the California derangement syndrome. I've been living with that for years and years. New scum. The same 7th grade. I remember the guy on Baltimore Avenue that called me new scum. I was in 7th grade. I can handle that. We'll leave that aside. I understand what they're trying to do. I want to work with them. It's not about me. It's about people that we both represent. He represents and I represent, and I'm honored and proud to represent these folks.
That's how you handle it. That's a leader. You identify this guy as basically a bully and you move on. Don't even name his name and say, I'm here to work for the people and I'll work with this guy even though he's a bully for my constituents. That's real leadership. Again, if you want to help the folks in Southern California, please go to our website, civicmedia.us, and there's a place there to click on to find reputable aid to give to. Here's some both good and bad news to end the show on. From channel3000.com, WISC, here in Madison, this particularly interests me, well, all of Wisconsin, but for our listeners up in Chippewa Falls, Eau Claire. Headline, Leinenkugel family seeks to save. Chippewa Falls Brewery faces rejection from Molson Coors. A statement from members of the Leinenkugel family indicates that they want to buy the brewery in Chippewa Falls and save it from closure. However, the brewery's owner, parent company Molson Coors, has rejected a proposal to begin those discussions. Quote, we submitted a formal proposal to Molson Coors requesting to enter into a non-disclosure agreement. This would allow us to begin discussions on acquiring the Chippewa Falls Brewery with the goal of maintaining its operation under Leinenkugel family leadership, the statement reads. On January 6th, we received a response from Molson Coors CEO Gavin Hattersley, who declined to pursue the NDA. He stated that Molson Coors remains, quote, fully committed to the Leinenkugel brand, unquote. While we appreciate Mr. Gavin's affirmation of the brand's importance, we believe that the true commitment must include preserving the Chippewa Falls Brewery and the livelihoods of those who depend on it. There you go. By the way, this operated in Chippewa Falls for more than 150 years. Sold it, a couple, 3 years back to Molson Coors. And now in November, Molson Coors says, while Leinenkugels will still remain as a beer, I think they're going to brew it in Milwaukee. But they're closing down this plant, the original, in Chippewa Falls. 50, some, almost 60 people affected up there. Coors family the Leinenkugel family tried to buy it back. That's what happens when big corporations come in.
Can't be surprised, really.
That's why I drink New Glarus, Spotted Cow, a locally brewed beer owned and operated in Wisconsin in beautiful New Glarus. Thanks to Pat Kreitlow. Thanks to Mr. Zommers, all of you for listening. We'll see you tomorrow. Stay tuned for Maggie Dawn next. Todd Allbaugh saying, whatever you're fighting for, whatever you believe in, do not give up. Keep banging your drum. See you tomorrow.
Keep banging on your drum, and they will hear you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate your listenership, your viewership. Have a lovely day. We'll see you mañana. Bye-bye.
Adios.